I always felt every day, every second of every day I was in these prisons, that we could become a victim of something. There were a couple of occasions in Papua New Guinea I was interviewing a prisoner who was on death row, and I was sitting down in his dormitory. The cell door was locked. There was about 60 prisoners in this cell. I was interviewing this death row prisoner who'd killed a witch, and as I was talking to him, there was a scuffle going on behind me. When I looked round, some prisoners were fighting, and we were locked in this space with these guys. And this death row prisoner got up very coolly, walked to the end of the corridor, said, kind of, excuse me, got up, walked to the end of the corridor and just stopped the fight. He said something, and it just stopped this fighting breaking out almost instantly, came back, sat down very coolly, and said, let's continue the interview. And it was moments like that, it was moments like that that made me realise the power of an individual that I was meeting and talking to, because he was, no taller than 5 foot tall. He was petite, he was small, he'd been in prison 15, 20 years. His brother had died in prison for the same crime. He was on death row, but the power he wielded over all these big guys was breathtaking, actually.
In the UK, there are schemes for rehabilitation behind bars. There's opportunities for education. Is that not the case in these places?
I think it works differently in different prisons. None of these prisons had the resources or the financial support to provide the kind of rehabilitation programs that we offer in the prison system here. What they did offer prisoners were different incentives. For example, prisoners doing 15 years, for every 10 days they worked in a workshop, in Brazil sewing footballs, or in Belize going to a religious ceremony, they could earn back days. So that was their incentive. It wasn't about rehabilitating or getting this prisoner re-socialised so when they go back into society they're a law-abiding citizen. No, it was more about behave yourself and we'll take a day off of your sentence every so often if you do what we require. They just don't have the resources. I mean, the conditions in these places were appalling.
In the series you meet a prolific serial killer. What is, I'm assuming, his name, and what were his crimes?
Sergei Tikash, Ukraine. I'm sitting in a room that has a Hannibal Lecter cage waiting for this prolific serial killer. This is a man that was convicted of killing 38 women and children from the age 8 to 18. He was also a necrophiliac. In other words, he conducted sexual acts on their dead bodies. And in comes this guy handcuffed with guards, and he was like a little old granddad. He was like a 65, 70-year-old man who came in, his head was down, his eyes were cold, and he goes into this cage and he sits down and then he looks at me and then he talked quite candidly about the crimes he committed and why he committed these crimes. And it was probably the most uncomfortable interview I ever did. So he was a sociopath, a psychopath of the worst kind. And like I say, when I first met him and looked at this little old granddad, but when I looked into the cold eyes of this serial killer, I was very uncomfortable.